Hey folks, I just finished up this weekend's pre-release for the Murders at Karlov Manor, and I wanted to do a deck analysis for what I played out of my sealed pool because I think it's interesting and hopefully you will too. And I'm very happy to say that I went undefeated thanks to a couple of chunky flyers that I'll talk more about in just a second, and split prizes with someone at the very end to make sure that we both got the same because there were quite a few this time. And I'll also go over what I got in my prize pack. So stay tuned. Let's go to the table and start talking about the deck. Okay, so this was my pre-release deck. As you can see, I went white-blue. Normally, I don't like playing these colors. I don't like the play style of white and blue. But the format's kind of slow, and my rares that I got, this is kind of what I was pushed into and I thought was the best chance of me winning. And it was a good thing that I did. So first off, we'll just talk about lands, and then we'll talk about the spread of the different converted mana costs. So for islands, I had 8 islands because I'm a little bit blue heavy. And then I had 7 plains, so almost an even split. 15 basics. For non-basics, I had 2 public thoroughfare that I opened and an escape tunnel, which basically was just an evolving wilds. I never used it for its other option. Public thoroughfare allows you to basically get 1 mana of any color as long as you meet the conditions when it comes in. So a lot of filtering there. So that's 18 lands total. Normally I'd go for 17, but I really wanted to hit my upper curve to make sure that I got a land each turn if possible. I also had a Gravestone Strider, and he's just there for the filtering because I have a couple of like double blue, double white, that sort of thing. So I just wanted to make sure that I had my mana. I was lucky enough to open those. So 18 total with 1 filter. Okay, so this is my spread of the converted mana cost for the whole deck. Before I go into each one, I'll just show you really quick what my pool was. You can pause really quick to check it out. So these were my other rares. I got Commercial District as my promo, Case of Crimson Pulse, Connecting the Dots, Thundering Falls, one of my rares, Audience with Tristani, Melik you can't play with. The other rares I got were Ezram, Conspiracy Unraveler, and Lost in the Maze. So that's pretty much all I got. After I opened 2 Ezram, I was like, well, I guess I need to play blue-white because he's very good in a limited environment. So that's what my pool was. We'll go over the deck. I had very few 1-drops. Curious Inquiry. This was basically like a curiosity. Case of the Uneaten Feast. This was, to gain a little bit of life and also to cast something from my graveyard later. Luckily, all my cases that I opened and used had the solve at the beginning of your end step, so I could always use them. And this was another one of my rares. This card wasn't that good, but I put it in there and it helped, I think, once or twice to get the 1 life. Never used the second clause because games didn't run that long. Curious Inquiry is great. Basically, get some +1/+1. I have a couple flyers, and nobody wants you to have a bunch of draw card tokens. So as soon as I put this on a creature, it was almost always a target. And then Behind the Mask, this is a fantastic combat trick, I think. In this set, you have a lot of clues, right? I have a card that generates some clues. Ezram generates 2 clues on his own. So I could have a clue, someone could attack, and then I could use this as a combat trick to make my clue a 4/3 and kill one of their guys, or just allow me 1 turn to get in for 4 damage and force a combat trick on my opponent that I know they're sort of waiting on. So a lot of the time, I think like 2 or 3 times I would play this, try to get in for 4 damage on my opponent, and then he would flash something in, like use a removal spell on it, and then when he was trying to remove it, I would pay 2 to sacrifice it and get the draw. So that's very handy. Behind the Mask is a really good common, I think, if you're in blue. So just 3 1-drops. We'll go into the 2-drops. Again, I didn't have like a great pool for small guys, but there was a couple games where I got the aggro win, which was nice. So Gravestone Strider, he's just there for fixing, but he can attack for 1. He did a couple times. Exit Specialist can't be blocked by creatures with 3 power or greater. I mainly liked him because you could disguise, do combat trick to pay 2, flip him up, and then return somebody to the owner's hand. And this was great just as like a tempo play because I wanted to keep the field empty so I could get in some really good early damage. I had Push and Pull. Really, I only use this for push. It's a sorcery speed, which really sucks, and multiple people were like, why didn't you play that on my end step or something, or after combat? And it was like, I can't, it's sorcery. but it's a removal spell, and I have very little in this one. Case of the Gateway Express. This is a removal and a pump spell, so this was great. Normally I had 2 or 3 creatures out. Let's get that in focus. 2 or 3 creatures out. So when it first comes in, if you have 3 creatures out, you can target one of their guys, and because you have 3 creatures, each one does 1 damage, so it's like a lightning bolt kind of to one guy. It was almost always a removal spell, and then it sits around to become a +1/+0 pump spell for you, which is fantastic. Deduce, this is just to make sure I'm getting through my deck. I want to make sure I hit my big hitters. Draw a card, then investigate. That also gave me a clue in case I wanted to use that animation spell, which was good. Neighborhood Guardian. This is good because I have a lot of 2-power creatures. So Neighborhood Guardian was fantastic in letting me get +1/+1 to him or something with flying most of the time, and then get a little bit extra damage. This was great. Unauthorized Exit. This is just a combat trick most of the time, or if they spent like, I don't know, 4 or 5 mana, casting something and emptying their graveyard with the collect evidence. This was a great way to just like put it back in their hand. Of course, if it's something that's really dangerous when it enters the battlefield, do not use this on that if it has a really good effect. But most of the time it was like, let's remove one of your creatures so you can't block this turn. Or that was a really expensive cast. That was your whole turn. Let's put it back in your hand, so make you redo it again. Another tempo play. Market Watch Phantom. Unfortunately, he can't give other things flying, but he can give himself flying. This was just another 2/2 for 2. That was pretty good. So those are my 2 drops. Not great. The 3 drops is probably where a lot of the work was done. I had this Furtive Courier. Can't be blocked as long as you've sacrificed a artifact. That condition was almost never met. So most of the time it was just attack for 3, which is great, and then draw a card, discard a card, which allows me, again, to filter. I'm looking for my big hitter, Ezram, here. All right, Makeshift Binding. This is one of my only other pieces of removal, plus it gives you life, which is very, very beneficial in a limited environment. So this was super, super handy. I came up against a Kellen. I used this. I came up against the Spider Woman that generates 2 spiders. I used this. It was very, very handy. Crime Stopper Sprite. I've got 2 of these. This is great. This is just a 2/2 for 3 that has flying. You can collect evidence, but the other nice thing too is when it comes in, you can tap one of their creatures. So basically, depending on how you're playing it, you got a 2-drop, right? And then you put this guy in next turn. You can tap his blocker and hopefully get in with some other damage. And then the 2/2 will also trigger like Neighborhood Guardian or something like that. So that was really good just because it's flying, it's evasion, which is great and limited. The 4 drops, I put Lost in the Maze as a 4-drop because I don't really want to cast it for just 1. So I never played this card the entire time. Even though this format is very slow, every time I had this in my hand, I wanted something else. I never cast it. I just didn't think it was good enough. There was always something I'd rather be doing, be more aggro or something. So I didn't play that. Granite Witness, I never disguised it. I always just played it as it's 4 for 3/2 Flying Vigilance, which is great. Museum Night Watch. I don't think I ever played this. This was another card that I think I saw only once or twice during the entire day. Just never got an opportunity to play it, but I would have absolutely played it for the disguise cost if I had had it. This is the card that probably guaranteed my wins, which is great. So like I said, as soon as I opened one, I was like, okay, that guy's pretty good, but I still don't want to do blue-white. Let's see what else I got. And then I opened a second Ezram, the foil one, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to play that. He's a 5/5 flying for 5, which is already insane for limited, but when he comes in, he generates 2 clue tokens, right? He investigates twice. Okay, so you have 2 clue tokens, and then, not 10, 2. And then he has this ability, you can sacrifice an artifact to give him Vigilance, Lifelink, Hexproof until end of turn. One of those things, right? So I never cast this, on curve at 5. I always waited until I had 6 mana to cast this. You cast him for 5, right? You have 1 left open, and it basically allows you to tap 1, sacrifice one of your clues to guarantee, because of his hexproof ability, guarantee he survives until next turn, right? And then depending on where my life's at, I might just swing for 5 and see what they do. And then again, if they have removal, I'll get rid of my second clue, tap another one, and give him hexproof, which is most of the time what you're doing in order to protect him, because he's a serious threat. Somebody tries to O-ring, somebody tries to burn him or something like that. You're going to want to protect him. I used him, let's see, in my later games, I ended up using the lifelink more when I could tell that my opponent just did not have removal. So Ezram was an absolute champ. Thank you for helping me win. Fuss and Bother. This is an interesting card. I thought I'd be using it for this because I had multiple times where I had 3 creatures attacking, and this would have been really strong. But the piece of this card that actually won me the game was Bother right here. Is I had almost nothing in hand during my second match, I believe. Cast this for Bother, got 3 tokens, surveilled twice, but I also had, where was it? Case of the Gateway Express out. So he thought I only had 3 1/1s, but I reminded him next turn, for the attack or whatever, that each one was a 2/2, or 2/1 basically. So it was 6 power coming on the board. Very, very strong. This I only cast in 1 game. It's 7 mana, which is crazy for limited, but again, like I said, I had 18 lands. I wanted to make sure that I could hit Ezram and this if I needed to. The second ability, never useful at all. You can collect evidence 10 rather than paying for a spell. I would never do that. It might be something like this, I guess, if I had multiple cards in hand that I wanted to do, but never did that. It was basically just a 6/6 flying for 7. And again, that's very scary in limited. So that was my deck. The first one I played against was green, blue, black, with the focus on the turtle guy, the whole of the conclave or whatever it was, the 2/15 turtle, something like that. And then the next turn, or the next match, I played against blue, green, black again, with a focus on Kellen and the Spider Lady. And then the last round, we split so that we could both get equal prizes for first place. And he was playing Boros. In my opinion, Boros is very, very strong in this environment. He had, I think, 7, 8 removal spells, something like that. He had a ton of shock. He had Lightning Helix, which is absolutely not fair, especially in limited. He had a bunch of really good cards, so I'm glad I split with him. Anyway, let's look at the prizes that we got. Okay, so we got a Vito Thorn of the Dusk Rose, which is great because I need it for Vampires deck. So that was just like the promo for playing. Got another Connecting the Dots, Commercial District, Lush Portico. So I got a couple of the dual lands, which is cool. Undercity Sewers. Assassin's Trophy, which is great. It's like one of the only cards I wanted out of this set, so no reason to buy anymore. 10th District Hero, Case of the Locked Hothouse, Officious Interrogation, Assemble the Players, Niv Mizzet, which is kind of neat. Then I got a World Soul's Rage, Incinerator of the Guilty, and a Death Cloud from the list, which was cool. So these came out of my prize packs. I heard from the previous night, anybody who opened one of these in their limited pool guaranteed one. I think there were 2 people the previous night who had won, and both of them opened this guy. He's insane. So I'm happy with what I opened out of my prize packs. Again, I didn't think this set was very interesting. I'm kind of done with Ravnica, but I was thankful to split with the last guy and just go home with lots of cool stuff. The last thing that I do want to say, I don't have a card, so I'm just going to flip through random stuff I have. You know the Slime Against Humanity card? I don't think, the draw rate for that is insanely low. I think one guy in my entire pre-release period opened 1. All of my prize packs, all of my sealed whatever, I opened 0. I have a feeling that the draw rate for that common is extremely low. Yeah, barely anybody saw those. Like I said, my entire pool of players opened a single Slime Against Humanity, which is a bummer. Anyway, all right, that's the end of the video. I appreciate you watching. If you have questions about the deck or what I played against, feel free to let me know and ask me in the comments. But thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and appreciate everybody who subscribes. I'm working on the new studio. Hopefully you can tell from my awful background today that I'm starting to get working on it. So let's get to 100 subs, and I can start putting it together, finish painting, everything like that. See you again soon. Bye.